You know, we have a habit in Africa where we blindly copy Mzungu things without understanding exactly what they mean. In our desperate effort to be westernized, we copy traditions and customs of the white man without fully understanding where they come from, where they're coming from. On our super fascinating show today, I will give you 7 Mzungu habits that are damaging Africa. Indeed, 7 Mzungu habits that are damaging and finishing marriages in Africa. And all this is still happening as we speak. But before I do that, let me give you the perfect illustration of why Africans who ape Mzungus blindly are making a fool of themselves. Some Mzungus sat down one day for dinner with an African. And this Mzungu wanted to prove to his friends that indeed all Africans are not intelligent. They're stupid. They're idiots. And when the soup came, this Mzungu tucked in his napkin on his neck to avoid splashing the soup onto his shirt. And the African, looking at him very keenly, did precisely the same. And when they had finished the soup, he took the napkin from his neck and laid it carefully on his lap. The copycat African did the same. And then the real drama started. Immediately they had taken the first fork full of a very juicy steak, beef. They removed the napkin again and returned it on the neck. And the African, carefully looking at the Mzungu, did the same. And the fork reached his mouth again twice, and he quickly returned the napkin onto his lap. The African did precisely the same thing. 2 forkfuls, and then the napkin went back. Exactly what the Mzungu had done. And all the Mzungus there on that table burst out laughing. He had proved his point. And the embarrassed African still didn't understand. He didn't even understand why they were laughing. But he knew they were laughing at him. My dear fellow African, what is so difficult with understanding something before you copy it? What is so difficult with asking for help? And if you can't bring yourself to ask for help, why not use that smartphone you have? Google. Before you make a fool of yourself and destroy your marriage and your family. If I was that African, what I'd have done is I would have pushed aside all the knives and forks and everything and eaten like an African. And I would have told my hosts, excuse me, but let me eat like an African. This is how we eat in Africa. And indeed, I have done that a few times. Now, I was very fortunate because one of the things my late political lecturer insisted on doing, and I will be forever grateful, was that he made an effort to make sure I was exposed. And I've even done better. I've exposed my children even more. So even if you put all those 10 knives on the table in front of me and mix them up, I'll rearrange them and I'll know exactly how to use them and when. Basically, you start in one direction and you work yourself consistently, one tool after another, and each specific knife for each specific cause will be right in front of you. Anyway, I knew all that. Still, I used my spoon consistently for the rice and even for the pudding. I ignored the teaspoon. And guess what? I got respect. Anyway, very quickly, on to the 7 Mzungu things damaging your marriage as we speak. Number 1, the bed. I remember growing up, my grandparents used to use a bed that was barely 3 feet by 6 feet. Today, it has to be a huge 6 by 6. If you have a 5 by 6, uko nyuma. And so when you retire for the night, you're with your phone in Mombasa, and your wife is with her phone in Elwak. Now I know most of you don't know where Elwak is. Northeastern, near Mandera, or is it Wajir? And the huge space in the middle of the bed can host a serious soccer game. I kid you not. Or as I heard a servant of God once say, this large space allows the devil to sleep between you and your wife, your dear wife. A narrow bed is perfect, because it will allow you to sleep in the arms of your loved one. Whatever happened during the day, whatever issues you had during the day, and this will tend to heal whatever it was. When you wake up in the morning, things will be better. Much better than if somebody slept in Mombasa and the other person slept in Elwak. Number 2, makeup. Growing up, I remember that during the day, my grandmother was dressed for work. Her hair was all over the place. So the men outside there would never know how beautiful she truly was. But in the evening, she would have a bath, use a lot of soap, and then afterwards use a lot of Vaseline. She would then carefully comb her hair. And then she would do something that would totally embarrass me. She would start singing some old Kamba songs and dancing with me, calling me her husband. I hated it. How could I be the husband of such an old woman? Decades later, I understood. Today's modern woman dresses to kill in the morning when she's going to work. She's at pains to make sure that what only her husband should see will be seen by every man. Every Kamau, Njoroge, Makoha, and Abraham. At night when she comes to bed, she uses things on her hair, and then she covers her hair, and then she wears tights that even the strongest man cannot tear. And when her husband tries to move all the way from Mombasa to Elwak, she responds, "Wewe ni nini? Nimechoka." Bottom line, and my advice to my dear sisters, whom I still love very much, most of those things you wear to the office is what you should wear in the bedroom. That perfume that you put on that makes men dizzy is what you should wear just before you go to bed. And please change that bed of yours, that king-size bed, to a tiny 3 by 6 bed and see the impact it will have on your marriage. Number 3, the Mzungu customs and habits teaches the man to be meek and submissive to his woman. And so when he's told, we ni nini, nimechoka, his response, "Sorry my dear. Weishe pole darling, sikujua uko kwa mood. Wacha nirudi Mombasa. Pole sana." Now, in case you didn't know, my fellow men, there is nothing that will put off an African woman more than a weak man. And I don't mean that you should be a brutal man. No. I assure you, if you're brutal to your wife, she'll lose respect for you. Because fearing you and fearing your violence is not respect. In my view, African men have taken this equality thing and women's rights thing too far. They're like that man on the table who was shamed, copying something that you don't understand. Understand it first, and then you can apply it perfectly to your situation. In Africa, deeply care for your wife. Provide for her. Be even prepared to die for her in case of any emergency. But I say, be a man. Come on. Now, the example I'm about to give is a very bad example. Okay? But it will illustrate what I want to say perfectly. In fact, it will prove to you that women, the African woman, has not changed since the days of my grandmother and my grandfather. Wema Sepetu, the famous Tanzanian actress, recently made a statement that left many in shock. She revealed that when she was with Diamond, the two were together, Diamond used to beat her up. And members of her family discovered after some time. And she told them to back off. She said she loves Diamond. There's no problem with their relationship. Sikukuwa na tatizo, nilikuwa nampenda. To quote a certain Luya woman, who was the wife of somebody who used to be a cook when I was growing up. And I was still a kid in those days. I was not supposed to hear this, but I heard. She said, and I quote, "Yeye unipiganga, lakini baadaye ananipiganga na hiyo mguu nyingine, na mimi nasikianga raha." Now I know we have some people on this channel who find it very difficult to understand anything. I think it's the 844 system of education. So let me make it crystal clear. I don't support wife beating. It is evil. But I don't know how these people, our forefathers, used to beat their wives. What I know is that nobody used to end up in hospital. Indeed, there were hardly any hospitals. Nobody used to die. But what I know is that whatever they did worked with the DNA wiring of an African woman. I travel a lot. And the other day, my wife was horrified. When she had a woman telling her, deep in some rural area in Kenya, the following: "Unajua mimi, siwezi kumaliza, mpaka anichape." Every time I remind my wife of that story, she loses it. I kid you not. But then we have become so westernized. How will we ever even begin to understand? But this I can understand. Your woman is not going to be turned on by a weak man. No way. It will never happen. Number 4, we copy the Western habit of the husband being served food by the maid and not his dear wife. And I fully understand that your wife goes to work. She's exhausted. But then we can't change people's DNA. We can't change the way people are wired, because it is not us who are involved in the process of wiring them and creating them the way they are, deep inside. And if you want to know how serious this seemingly light thing is, then consider the cases we have had these days, so many of them that it's boring, of husbands sleeping with their maids. The maid who always cooks and serves them nice food, tasty food, delicious food. I just hope you understand me. But let me give you a quick example. The other day, in fact just yesterday, I was told by an old woman from Mombasa the real reason why marriages at the Kenyan coast are much happier than marriages anywhere else in the country. According to her, food is used to send coded messages. So the woman prepares a very nice meal, a special meal. And then instead of serving it with water, she serves it with tasty juice, orange juice or mango juice. To quote her exact words, "Mume anajua leo ni finali." Sio mchujo na sio friendly match, ni finali ya Arsenal na Manchester United. Kufa na kupona. Ay. And so according to this old woman, there's no confusion in the bedroom. There's no misunderstanding. Because the day the husband is served with mabenda, without meat or fish, and with some very red, extremely red tomatoes, anajua ni kubaya jo. And so on that 6-foot wide bed, because Kenyans are obsessed about them, he'll sleep peacefully in Mombasa while his wife sleeps in Elwak, raw safi. Number 5, wife inheritance. Now I know this is very controversial, but hold your horses, let me explain. I am very reliably informed that wife inheritance, as it was supposed to be in the old days, is that the man took over the woman's life, expenses. She took care of the woman, took care of her children and everything, but there was no sex. Let me put it in the authentic African way of the old days. The man never, ever visited the heart of his inherited widow wife. However, because the woman is human, she has human feelings. Rather than being immoral, going outside a marriage, what would happen is that the widow, once in a long while, would send a message to the man through the children. And the small kid would come over to the man and tell him, mama anasema amepoteza sindano. Amepoteza sindano ya kushona. And immediately the man would know that his services are required. And the kids would know immediately that kwa sababu mama amepoteza sindano, they cannot sleep in that hut that night. Because the man has to come and help her. Atafute hiyo sindano the whole night. And of course this arrangement was not perfect. Sometimes the sindano would potea too many times. And the other wives or the other wife would get jealous. There's nothing perfect in this world. We're all human. And some humans take advantage of certain situations. But that is the way it was. But of course, corrupt man later changed it, and placed the emphasis on sex, on consummating their marriage to this poor widow they have inherited, which is absolutely wrong. And of course, this has gone to extremes. And so when the Mzungu came, the Mzungu showed us a different picture without fully understanding what the custom was all about. This is a primitive, dirty African culture. Africans are so dirty and stupid. And all of us swallowed the Mzungu lie. No. Africans are very intelligent. They've always been very intelligent. Their customs and cultures have a reason. Look at the life of African widows today. I've seen a few. They really suffer. Even if they have a job, they struggle. They are not stable. Their life changes for the worst. And all that would have been avoided by the Africans, going back to what their forefathers used to do. You don't go to her place until she sends a message, sindano imepotea. And if she never sends a message, hiyo ni sawa, you keep supporting her. And according to custom, it was okay for her never to poteza her sindano. But it was not okay for her to be seen with another man. That was a no. Because for all intents and purposes, she was a married woman. Number 6, this gadget called a television on the dinner table or close to the dinner table. Now, according to our African customs and tradition, the African dinner is an event, a major event. There is storytelling, there is dancing, there is talking, there is a family meeting, a major family meeting, And even in crisis, the African dinner still took place. Let me give you a quick example. Amongst the Akamba people, there used to be a lot of famine, lack of food sometimes. And when there was no food, the dinner still took place. But instead, they'd boil the skin of an animal in the big pot, the hide of a cow or a goat, and it would boil on, and the children would be told, let us continue as we wait for the food to get ready. And then, of course, they'd fall asleep. But they'd fall asleep with hope and confidence that there was food on the pot, cooking. On our modern Mzungunized dinner these days, the TV is on. Maybe news is going on. Or maybe some soap. But bottom line, that dinner never happened. Why? Because those people are not there. They're in that TV. Or they're on their phone, on social media, or something. That coming together as a family is gone. So, why are we surprised when we have so many problems in the family unit in Africa these days? The family never has a family moment together, ever. Parents are never able to pass on anything to their children. They leave it all to the teacher in school and to the naughty classmates of their children. Well, let me give you breaking news in case you haven't heard. Even Mzungus don't do that. Oh yes, the Mzungus you're trying to copy don't do that. They make an effort to have quality family time together. They even frequently go on a family holiday. But of course, your idea of a holiday is you cheating your wife, you're going on business, and taking your mpango wa kando somewhere, Mombasa or Masai Mara. Number 7, the power of the woman. In African culture, girls were trained when they were very young on how to behave as married women. They were shown their power as a woman, the tools they had to use to deal with men in their marriages, the God-given tools and power. Boys were trained to be men all the time by their fathers and uncles, and this education of being a real man culminated in the very serious circumcision ceremony. Or if there was no circumcision in that culture, they had to have an initiation ceremony to initiate a boy into manhood. And that is why my grandfather used to say something, and then my grandmother says something like, a laugh which is not a complete laugh. And then the very next morning, that harsh decision my grandfather had announced would suddenly be reversed. My grandmother would use the real power of a woman. Because if you're somebody's wife, you know him very well. So I'm not only talking about sex. There are other tactics, like threats. Like threatening. Hautapata hii kitu for 6 months. And that would finish the man. Well, today, the westernized African woman will tell you that is backward and primitive. But meanwhile, look at her life. The African woman today is very frustrated. She has no power in the home. She may think she's equal, but she has no power. She's powerless. If the husband says something, and indeed something stupid, that decision will stand. It will not be changed. For instance, if the man decides he's going to sell the shamba, he's going to sell the family land, that's it. That's final. That land would be sold. But in the old days, that would never happen. Why? Because the African woman was supposed to be very powerful in her own way. And she didn't need to go to Beijing to fight for women's rights to be powerful. No. She didn't need activists to be powerful. She didn't even need to threaten men with child support to be powerful. So, keep your opinion. Yeah, but tell me, I pray, who is more powerful? The African woman today or the African woman, my grandmother? Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.